Hey, language learners, homeschoolers, and all my fellow self starters. Welcome to Elevate, where we dive into stories and strategies to help you crush your goals in both language and life. I'm your host, Luna Sage. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you. We're talking about none other than the 28th President of the United States, Dr. Woodrow Wilson. Now, here's a fun fact. Dr. Wilson couldn't even read until he was 10 years old. Can you believe it? And yet, he went on to achieve so much. His story is filled with lessons that can motivate all of us, especially those of us learning new skills, like a new language. Not too long ago, I had the chance to visit Woodrow Wilson's birthplace and his presidential library and museum in Staunton, Virginia. It was such an inspiring experience. Being there, where his journey began, reminded me that greatness can come from humble beginnings. Imagine this, a future Nobel Prize winning president who struggled with reading as a kid. His story got me thinking about how we can use his journey to inspire our own. So who exactly was Woodrow Wilson? He was born in 1856 in Staunton, Virginia, during a pretty tough time, the Civil War era. His childhood was shaped by the struggles of time, and his father, who was a Presbyterian minister, played a big role in his upbringing. Now here's the kicker. Despite having a hard time learning to read, Dr. Wilson grew up to be one of the most influential leaders in American history. At 9 years old, Woodrow still couldn't read. But did that hold him back? Absolutely not. In fact, he is the only US president to have earned a PhD. He got his doctorate in history and political science from Johns Hopkins University in 1886. Talk about a comeback story, right? And here's a fun fact for you. His PhD dissertation was called Congressional Government, which was all about how the US government works. After all his struggles, he didn't just stop at learning to read. He became a professor and even the president of Princeton University. Lesson 1. Embrace your own pace. Dr. Wilson's journey is a great reminder that everyone learns at their own pace. If you're learning a language or homeschooling your kids, remember, just because progress feels slow doesn't mean you won't get there. Dr. Wilson is proof of that. He started slow, but he ended up leading a nation. So if you ever feel like you're falling behind, take a deep breath. It's all part of your unique journey. It's not about how fast you learn. It's about staying committed to the process. Your journey is yours, and that's totally okay. Lesson 2. The power of personalized learning. Here's something else cool. Dr. Wilson was homeschooled. His parents were able to tailor his education to fit his needs, and that's exactly what you can do when you're learning something new. Whether it's learning a new language or a new skill, you get to decide what you want to learn. Maybe you like flashcards, or maybe you prefer watching movies in your target language. Whatever works for you, do that. And speaking of personalizing your learning, Dr. Wilson was a big fan of keeping a notebook. He jotted down ideas and reflections throughout his life. You can do the same with your language learning. Write down new words, phrases, or just your thoughts in your target language. It's such a great way to track progress and keep yourself motivated. Lesson 3. Persistence wins the day. Dr. Wilson faced a lot of challenges, but he didn't give up. His persistence, along with personalized learning, allowed him to excel in areas that once seemed impossible, like reading and writing, and eventually all his achievements as a professor and later president. So when you hit a rough patch in your studies, whether it's a tricky grammar rule or a word you just can't remember, don't get discouraged. Take a page from Dr. Wilson's book and keep going. Persistence is key. Lesson 4. Learn from every experience. Dr. Wilson didn't just learn from books, he learned from life. Growing up during a chaotic time in history taught him so much. And guess what? Every experience you have, whether it's a conversation with a native speaker or watching a foreign film, adds to your learning too. Soak it all in and learn from everything around you. Alright, let's wrap this up with some quick takeaways from Dr. Wilson's journey that you can apply to your own language learning. 1. Set your own pace. Don't worry about how fast others are learning. 2. Personalize your methods. Find what works for you, whether it's flashcards, films, or keeping a notebook. 3. Be persistent. Stick with it, even when it gets tough. 4. Learn from life. Every experience can teach you something valuable. Dr. Woodrow Wilson's story teaches us that early struggles don't define our future. His life shows us that persistence, personalized learning, and a love for learning, we can achieve incredible things. I left his museum feeling so inspired, and I hope his story gives you that same motivation. If you're curious to learn more about Dr. Wilson's life, here are some great resources to check out. The Miller Center at the University of Virginia for a deep dive into his presidency. The Woodrow Wilson Presidential Library and Museum, of course. And if you want to explore how other U.S. presidents were educated, check out School House to White House, Education for the Presidents from the National Archives. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Elevate. If you found this episode inspiring, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who might need a little motivation. Remember, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Until next time, stay awesome.